Hey, welcome. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on one of the biggest ideas in all of technology, object-oriented programming. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but trust me, at its core, it's this really elegant, simple idea that basically brought order to the chaos of building software.
So let's just start with a massive question. How in the world do you build something like a huge online video game or a social network that connects billions of people without the whole thing just collapsing under its own weight? This was the exact nightmare that early programmers were up against.
You see, the problem wasn't just about adding more lines of code. The real monster in the closet was complexity. As these programs grew, they became these tangled, fragile messes. They were almost impossible to understand, and forget about trying to update them. You change one tiny thing over here, and it would cause a dozen unexpected bugs way over there.
To really appreciate why the solution was so brilliant, we first have to understand the problem. So let's take a look at how people used to do things the old way.
This old way is called procedural programming. And it's actually pretty easy to understand. Think of it like a recipe. The code is just a long list of instructions, and the computer just follows them one by one from top to bottom. First, do this, then do that. Simple enough, right? And yeah, it works great for small stuff. But the problems start when that recipe becomes thousands and thousands of pages long. And this right here, this image shows you exactly what I'm talking about. In that procedural world, you had your data, all the information, kind of sitting in one big pile. And then you had your functions, the actions that change the data, in another pile. And you see all those lines? Any function could just reach out and mess with any piece of data. It was a total free-for-all that quickly turned into a tangled, confusing spider web.
And that unrestricted access is the real killer. Seriously, it's like a game of Jenga. You try to change one little thing and the whole tower could come crashing down. If a programmer needed to change how one piece of data worked, they had to hunt down every single function that might be touching it. It just doesn't work like the real world, It makes building complex things incredibly difficult.
So this chaos forced a huge shift in thinking. Programmers desperately needed a better way to organize everything. They needed a new philosophy. And that new way was object-oriented programming, or as everyone calls it, OOP.
So what is it? Well, OOP completely flips the script. Instead of that one long recipe, you start to think of your program as a collection of self-contained objects. And each object is like a little bundle that holds its own data, we call these attributes, and the specific actions it can perform, which we call behaviors.
Okay, if the old way was one giant recipe, think of OOP as a kitchen full of smart appliances. The toaster knows how to toast. The blender knows how to blend. You don't need to tell the toaster how to heat up bread, you just tell it to toast. Each object knows its own job, and they all work together to get the bigger task done. I know this might still feel a little bit abstract, so let's make it way more concrete. We're going to look at how this all works with a couple of really simple real-world examples.
Here's the magic of OOP. It lets us model things from the real world directly in our code. So instead of just thinking about scattered pieces of data and functions, we get to think about a bank account object or a car object.
So let's take a look at this bank account object. Its data, its main attribute, is the balance. And look what's bundled right there with it. The only actions that are allowed to touch that balance. Deposit, withdraw, and check balance. You can't just reach in from some random part of the program and change the balance anymore. Nope. You have to use one of its built-in behaviors. This creates so much safety and order. And it's the exact same logic for a car object. The attributes are things you'd expect, right? Gas and tank, mileage, and the behaviors, accelerate, brake, to load fuel. And it just makes sense. The action of accelerating is obviously going to affect the amount of gas in the tank. By keeping the data and the actions that affect it together in one neat package, you get these logical, predictable, self-contained units.
So why was this such a game changer? What was the big payoff? Let's circle all the way back to that original problem of complexity and see why this new way of thinking won.
Okay, check this out. Let's put them side by side. The old procedural way separates data and functions, leading to chaos. OOP bundles them together into neat objects. The old way was hard to think about and even harder to change. The new way? It's way more intuitive. When you build software out of these little real-world modules, everything becomes dramatically easier to design, build, and fix.
And really, this is the whole point. The reason OOP completely took over is that it gives programmers a way to model the messy, complex real world inside a computer.
And because of that, those massive, complicated systems suddenly became understandable and, most importantly, manageable.
Now, what's really cool is that this idea of an object is just the first step. It's the foundation for even more powerful concepts, things that let objects inherit features from each other or even take on different forms depending on the situation. That's a story for another day, but it all starts with a simple, powerful idea of bundling data and behavior together.
So I want to leave you with a little challenge. Just look around you, right now. Your phone, your coffee mug, the chair you're sitting in, each one has attributes, right? Like color or temperature. And they have behaviors, like ringing or, well, holding liquid. Once you start thinking in objects, you really do start to see them everywhere. Thanks so much for tuning in.